of rule of law, it's something that we're still grappling, despite having a very progressive and old constitution. So I think the back at this point in the country where we are right now, it falls on everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Advocate Ohome. We'll have to take a break on that note, but do stay with us. We'll be back with more, including the legal framework on to enforce disappearances. Did you know that we actually don't have a law concerning that? Do stay with us. We'll be back with more.
Thank you.
Judicial killings and enforced disappearances here in the country. Now, Advocate Ohome, before we went on a break, we were looking into the situation here in the country, and there have been a lot of opinions that have been brought about on this particular issue. The latest being the Commission of Inquiry to be formed so that they can investigate these particular cases and bring a report to recommend what should be done. But having been in kituo cha sheria and, interacted with the law in terms of, violation of human rights specifically, do you think a commission of inquiry will get to the bottom of this, given that the government is sort of accused of perpetrating these particular cases?
All right. I believe that the Commission of Inquiry is able to go to the depth of the matter of the case, because it's quite, like it's called, Commission of Inquiry is independent from the government, and the people that are given the mandate to work on those specific cases ensure that they do investigations within the community. They question the specific arms of the government. They question the specific, organizations that also ensure that they protect the people against these facts. So I believe that the Commission of Inquiry, it's a good way to go to show us what is the problem, where are we supposed to do, where are we failing, and what should we do.
But as an advocate, you will know that the president will be mandated to sort of create this particular commission, form the task force, so to speak. So then, if his regime is accused of sponsoring these particular cases, don't you see that his hand will be already in the jar before we even,
get into the investigations?
Get into the process? Is it a concern that maybe justice may not be arrived using that particular, commission of inquiry?
I think it would be wrong to assume that we will not have an independent commission of inquiry within the country, and we already have a predisposed, imagination or thinking that the president will interfere with everything. As a country, we've come from far, and we have independent institutions. We have the Kenya Human Rights Commissions, we have KUTV, we have other organizations that ensure the independent and also access to justice. So by failing to have a commission of inquiry or undertaking this matter by fear that the president already is going to interfere with it would be the wrong move to do. We still trust that the justice and ethics within the country and whatever rights are given within the constitutions are going to be held
to account.
Yeah.
Maybe we do hope. Yeah, we can only hope. But you've said that we do not have a law in terms of enforced disappearances.
Yeah.
Is it a danger? What are the repercussions of not having, some sort of a legal framework? Because that particular loophole might be the loophole that security authorities are taking advantage of.
Very true. Currently, like I stated, we have the penal code, which specifically provides for the abduction and also the kidnapping, but it doesn't specifically provide for the enforced disappearance of what is happening right now in the country, which means that the law that is governing us right now does not extensively provide or give a definition of the seriousness of the crime of the enforced disappearance, which now it creates a limitations to the prosecution of the enforced disappearances, and also it limits the prescribed, judgment or a sentence that somebody who is accused of the kidnapping or the abduction would get.
All right.
Yeah.
But having worked in Kituo cha Sheria and mostly being pro bono cases that you're actually dealing with, as an advocate, sometimes you will actually even play the role of an investigator to make sure that your case is watertight as you go to present your client. So what are the challenges that investigators or even lawyers face preparing a case against a regime or against a security authorities or a police officer in a case whereby it is enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, and state-sponsored abductions?
All right. First, I would like to preempt that the issue of enforced disappearance is a crime, and if it's a crime, then advocates will not be involved within the investigation bit of it. So we have the police doing their work, and then it comes to court, and then after that, that's where we get in. And also in Kituo cha Sheria, we do not directly get involved with crimes. The only way that we can get into these matters is through public interest litigations.
Okay.
In a public interest litigation, it's where we can be involved in direct investigations, but specifically not working as police officers. This is an evidence gathering mission.
That's what I meant exactly.
Yeah.
In the evidence gathering, preparation of some sort.
Yeah.
What is the challenges that you face, given that you're doing this against somebody who is, perceived to be a top tier, so to speak? So is it an uphill task? Do you sometimes fail to give your client justice based on the fact that you are fighting against a regime?
A system.
Yeah,
It's definitely an uphill task. Most of the time you can have evidence withheld from you. You can have information withheld. Specifically, probably if you want to get information from the police or you want to get from an institution, you can get that information withheld from you. Or if you're gathering information from a community, you can have harassment. Sometime, if I can give an example that is unrelated to enforced disappearance, we are doing a public literacy litigation case. We've called the members of the public, we're asking them questions, and then we see police officers coming to harass us and going to an extent of arresting us, asking questions, why are you doing this? Do you have permission? Do you have remit? So those are some of the issues that you can get when you're investigating or gathering evidence that is of interest to a particular individual or to a particular regime.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how then effective is the court system when it comes to these particular cases? Because when these cases are cited, we now get the discussion of state capture, that actually judiciary is an independent arm of government, but then there are assertions that they have been captured by the executive, or they're acting under the whims of the executive. Having been an advocate and been in court presently, do you think our legal justice system is able to bear the pressure that comes when the government is actually involved?
Yes, I believe it is. Yeah, and also giving contrary opinion as the judiciary being controlled by the executive would be wrong, because we've seen the judiciary making independent decisions. We know there have been conversation within the news of the Supreme Court and any other, independent of the judges and the judiciary, but some of this conversation emanates from a political interest. Yeah, so I wouldn't say that the judiciary at this point, it would be wrong to literally having, this is a law school, and then there are students who are studying law, and I'm telling them, no, the judiciary is not independent. We have the executive getting in. No, the judiciary is quite very much independent, and we try to uphold the rule of the law and the independence of the institutions.
All right, but you see, some cases it will not be actually saying it is independent when what is happening on the ground is not actually the true picture of what you're saying.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, we are having civil societies present a petition before the International Criminal Court on the basis of the enforced disappearances, the abductions, and the killings.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, is it because they do not trust our court system, which you are confident is actually independent, to the extent that they will go continents apart to actually present a case of what is happening in the country?
All right. Wow, that's a good question. However, like I stated, the issue of enforced disappearance is not just a normal crime like kidnapping and abduction. This is a crime that involves extrajudicial killing, and recently within the country, and the statistics that you've given us, these cases have been so many. They've been happening blatantly in the broad daylight. We have youth being killed. So this is a crime against humanity. And one of the jurisdiction of the ICC is if the country is not able to protect its people against a crime of humanity, then you can take a case there. And also the fact that Kenya is a signatory of the Convention of Protection Against Enforced Disappearance, and also we have the International Crimes Act, so it gives us a leeway to take cases there.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there a specific magnitude that can warrant a Kenyan, a civil society, to present a case before the ICC? Because at the first time when we actually presented a case, we were talking about the 2007 general post-election violence, where we were talking about 1,100 people having, died due to the skirmishes. Is there a specific threshold that can warrant, or is it a case of I'm tired with this court system here in the country? How about I go to Netherlands and present a case?
Yeah, there's definitely a threshold, and it's not a threshold of numbers. Okay. For example, you've mentioned the 2,700 were high numbers. This year there might be a lower number, but still. So the threshold is the acts that are being done. Is it a heinous crime against humanity?
Right.
That's the threshold.
Is reasoning out.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, threshold that is happening, and the government that is ruling is not able to protect its citizens against that act.
Right.
Yeah.
You talked about previously that even before we go to Hague in Netherlands, we have different jurisdiction here in the continent. Was it the best decision to actually go to ICC, or will you have canvassed the issue here in the country and also regionally before going there?
Okay, we have an exhaustion doctrine where a country can go to they have exhausted the jurisdictions of the courts within their own country. They've gone to the East African Court. They've gone to we have the African Court, I believe, before they go to the ICC Court. However, in these particular matters, enforced disappearance is quite a heinous crime. It's not just any other kidnapping or abductions. And since it has happened in such systemic and surprisingly large numbers within the country, and the regime is not able to protect its people right now, the ICC has a jurisdiction to act upon those matters. There's no difference against what is happening right now or what is happening in Congo. It's just the magnitude is quite different because that is an attack, but here, the enforced disappearance, it's as heinous as that.
All right.
Yeah.
So then, why haven't we been able to see prosecution and actually conviction, not even prosecution, conviction of police officers or security officers who are involved in these particular heinous crimes? Because the common mwananchi down there will say, even if I report this particular case, I will only endanger my life, because rarely will you see a police officer being, brought to book. And that has been a case scenario in terms of what happened to Baby Pendo, a case that started in 2018. It's 2025. We're still, talking about that particular case with no particular conviction. What is the nexus in terms of the law, in terms of implementation, to ensure that there is conviction?
All right. So convictions of the cases is, I would say, takes time within the court. The court quite does take time. However, in terms of policemen not being prosecuted, we have seen most of them who have been prosecuted. Yeah, and in these cases, specifically on enforced disappearance, that one, I would go again to the definition of enforced disappearance. It is an action that is actioned by the states, by agents of the states, all the individuals authorized by the states. So by the time that the case is going to court, there's already political interest within the case.
So that's to say that political interests have superseded the law to ensure that some people are
they
above
haven't
the law?
superseded the law. What happens is that they may, if I may use the word, mess up with the evidence, and the court uses evidence to prosecute. So if there's a missing link of evidence within the whole case, then it derails the case. And the case of Baby Pendo, I wouldn't want to mention that case, get into that case, but I believe the prosecution file has the evidence, and I believe that if there's anything that needs to be gotten in the field, we have police officers who goes and does that. So the issues of enforced disappearance and prosecuting police officers, we can probably say it's on the cases of buried evidence, lack of evidence, destroyed evidence, which now creates a challenge for the courts to prosecute and adjudicate on the matters.
All right.
Yeah.
Then when it comes to the families of people who have been abducted, people who have been killed, is there a loophole in the law in terms of protecting these particular families? Because in the first place, if you're talking about state-sponsored disappearances or state-sponsored killings, the first step is to go and report to a police station that my kin is missing.
Very true.
But this particular kin is being held by these people you're reporting to, which begs the question whether what can we do in that particular scenario, given that the people who are supposed to investigate are the people who are actually involved. So it leaves you somewhat exposed, given that you have nobody to run to, yet the Constitution has already provided a mechanism to protect you in that scenario.
All right. I wouldn't say that the people you are running to are the people who are doing the abductions, because we have had the Inspector General say specifically that the police officers are not doing this.
So who's actually doing it?
That one we can leave it to the news and the speculation and the cases that are going to court.
So what happens in the cases whereby they're actually involved? They're saying, okay, we are not involved. In the case of Kitengela 3, the police said they were not involved.
Yeah.
But when the 3 individuals were released, they said the police were actually involved. So then where are we protected in that scenario, given that there is double speak for one, and the person who's supposed to protect you is the person who's actually not
protecting you.
Yeah.
I understand. However, the best thing is about the country and our constitution. It has given us institutions that oversee bodies like the police officers. We have IPOA. So if you're going to prosecute a case and the police officers are refusing to act, you can definitely go to IPOA. You can definitely go to Kenya Human Rights Commission that can start investigations against those police officers if they are identified.
Okay.
Yeah.
And looking into this, have you previously reported a case to IPOA? Do you see them progressive in terms of calling the police into action?
Individually, I haven't reported a case to IPOA. However, as Kituo Sheria, I believe we have. I believe we have, because we have worked on so many cases against injustices, and I believe in one way or another we have interacted with the help of IPOA.
All right.
Yeah.
With that note, we are taking our final break, but do stay with us. We'll be back with more in terms of bringing the discussion to a close and looking into what is missing in terms of the legal loopholes in the Constitution and the acts we have in the country. Do stay with us.
My name is Jakub Petri. I'm Associate Professor in the Institute of Philosophy of Jagiellonian University in Krakow, Poland. And I'm the main coordinator of the CAFE project, which is being here hosted by Kenyatta University.
My name is Eva Hudoba. I am a project manager in this consortium. Keep watching cutting-edge research at Kenyatta University Television.
They are powerful and influential. They make decisions in politics, education, finance, agriculture, health, sports, and all aspects of human life. But the impact of their decisions falls on you, the common citizen. KUTV Primetime News Thursday. We ask bold questions and pursue answers to the core to bring you closer to the story. We couldn't have it any other way. Join me, Auma Evans, as I raise matters of social concern to raise your voice from the background to the foreground.
Badala ya kutafuta kazi, tunaweza kuanzisha miradi yetu ambayo ingetusaidia kubadilisha maisha ya wazazi wetu.
Kwa vijana wenzangu, wengi hawana kazi, lakini ikiwa sisi wenyewe tutajiamini, tunaweza kujiajiri wenyewe.
Afrika kwa kweli tuna mahitaji ambayo ukiyasuluhisha unaweza kuathiri watu kwenye bara hili.
Bila woga, watu huwa na uzalishaji zaidi, wanajawa na ujasiri, wanakuwa wabunifu na wanakuwa wenye maarifa.
Niliamua kuacha kazi, hata kama sitafanikiwa, nitakuwa nimejaribu, nitakuwa najua haiwezekani.
Hakuna kitu cha ajabu hapa. Kila anayepata ufanisi hufanya kazi usiku na mchana.
Kitu kitakusukuma na kuwezesha kupata maarifa ambayo hukuwa nayo.
Tunajaribu kutengeneza kitu kitakachopita mipaka ya nchi hii.
Ikiwa unataka kubadilisha ulimwengu, anza na nyumbani.
Welcome back. You're watching Law Matters. We are on the tail end of this particular show tonight, talking about the issue of state-sponsored abductions, enforced disappearances, and extrajudicial killings. Now, looking into the legal loopholes that are actually exacerbating these particular cases here in the country. Now, Advocate Wahome, you've mentioned about cases dragging for time, looking into the Baby Pendo case that dragged from 2018 to 2025. And the reason sometimes is because of either interference with evidence or even interferences with the witnesses. Are there safeguards or do we need reforms in terms of witness protection? Because most cases is you will have a witness, days to the witness appearing in court, for some reason they've disappeared. What are the safeguards? Are there loopholes on that?
I believe there are loopholes on that, and through that we have an act, the Witness Protection Act, which has established an agency, the Witness Protection Agency. So if the prosecutor deems that their client is in danger, they can be killed, they can be harassed, almost their life is in danger, then this specific agency can offer safe houses. Okay. It can be until the case is over for a specific time, or even they can be offered relocation.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that the same case with whistleblowers? Because in this day and age whereby the generation is quite woke, you know, the Gen Zs, they will wake up one morning, be on TikTok and, you know, display what they think is actually happening in the government. When you look into the whistleblower protection, is that the safeguard, or can you say what are the safeguards before you actually, you know, come out to give information to a regime that actually can, you know, take the worst of forms in terms of shaming?
Yeah, I think we've had a very interesting development of witness protection, bearing in mind that now we have technology. Okay. So, for example, if I'm a witness in court, then my statement is written, and just the court, the prosecution, and the accused people and the witnesses know that I'm the witness, right? But now we have specifics where we have people giving all this information in the social media, and it has become, I don't want to say it's very easy, it has become very easy to track them, and they're abducted, and you know, they're detained for a specific time that other people do not know. So I feel that at this point, if anybody deems that they have important information that can help a particular case, then they can ensure that they visit the protection agency, and then they can be on the radar of the lookout. Are they safe where they are? Or either they can ensure that they report to the police or to the police. I know saying that.
Yeah, sometimes might be read in some sort
but
of
it
way.
is important to ensure that you report any kind of, you know, any kind of fear that you have, that you might be in danger. So it's very important for you to do that. Either you engage in social media engagement, or you're either witness in court.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, we have the National Police Service Act that sort of creates a framework in terms of how the police should actually conduct themselves, even as they are protecting the public. But suffice it to say that even with that particular, you know, act in place, we have seen cases of excessive force, people being bluntly, you know, beaten up by police officers during demonstrations. Is it because of an issue of not having a punitive, you know, punitive mechanism in case a police officer has actually violated that particular act? Or are we having a situation whereby because we say sometimes the police are sometimes immune when it comes to the law in certain scenarios, has that now become a weak link in terms of ensuring that, you know, they follow the law to the letter?
Okay, it's very unfortunate that that is happening, and there's so many ways that I can answer that question. However, we have, for example, the police officers, they have a specific mandate in which they're supposed to do their work, right? And most of the cases you can hear the police officers saying that they used the force relevant to what they were facing. They can say that the Gen Z were fighting back and we were fighting back, so we had the same kind of force that was coming to us, which is very wrong. And most of the time, criminal cases do begin with the investigation in the police officers, which that's why most of these cases do not meet, get themselves in court. And that's why we've seen so many civil society organizations trying to, call for accountability with the government and having independent commissions to investigate these cases. Because if we have that, then now we have these specific individuals who are blatantly killing people and using excessive force being brought to justice. Yeah.
Because now these situations are state-sponsored, then the public is left under the mercies of human rights organizations to actually call this out. But to give it to them that they have actually been quite vocal in terms of calling out these particular cases. But at the same time, they're still increasing, which goes to show that somebody somewhere is not listening. Are there mechanisms in the law to ensure that they're actually listening to what the civil society organizations are saying? Because again, if we have the law in place and we still have these particular cases ongoing, then it means that something is not really, working.
Yeah.
So then what is the approachment to
mechanism?
That? Mechanism.
Okay, so we've had a lot of organizations and also individuals having public statements calling on the government, calling on the different arms of the governments to be accountable. And then we've had organizations, for example, I would mention KUTV and other organizations that are legal that can file cases in court against this act. And also we've had the brave cases that you've spoken about of people who have gone ahead and sought justice at the higher courts. I think these are some of the leeways that are being used to ensure that there is accountability in all this, and within their country we still remain sane, and the Bill of Rights that is provided by the Constitution is adhered to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if we are to say that our hope is the International Criminal Court, can you tell us how the prosecution of those particular cases will go about? I know we have witnessed it in the 2007 post-election violence, but when it came to the conviction, it somewhat felt like maybe there was some weak link there, because we haven't seen, prosecution, conviction on those particular cases.
Yeah.
When it comes to these cases whereby now we have a law, there are law mechanisms in place, do we see the ICC actually coming to save us from the brink that we are?
Well, I wouldn't actually say that our hope is the ICC. So I believe that our own actions within the country are what is going to help us out of these situations. First, can we come up with a law that specifically criminalizes enforced disappearance and also prescribed a penalty for this? And when we have the arms of the government, executive, take accountability of these acts, so I think the efforts that we do within the country, and also reforms within the law, actions being taken, I think that is what is going to bring a change within our country.
All right.
Yeah.
And looking into the issue of the enforced disappearances, you've said that we have not had a law in place since 1963. What has hindered that, given that these cases have actually been happening? Has it been that Parliament has not, been proactive on this, or has the human rights organization not really seen this as a concern? Because sometimes they will take the issue on their own hand and actually present a petition to Parliament so that a law can be put in place.
Yeah.
Why don't we have a law on this particular issue?
Like I stated, in 2010, Kenya assented to 2010. For everybody who is listening and they're reading this, I think I would say the year 2010, we assented to the International Convention on Protection of Persons Against Enforced Disappearance.
That was an international statute?
Yeah, international statute. So we have already assented to that. And we have countries within Africa, like Burkina Faso, Guinea, we have Tunisia, who have a specific law on enforced disappearance. Kenya, the civil society, if I could mention a few, we have KUTV, we have Katiba, we have Muhuri, so many organizations. They came, Haki Africa, we came together, we sat down, we came up with a bill on enforced disappearance. We tabled it before the parliamentary special committee through the public petition, and it's a conversation which is ongoing. So the main reason as to why the law has not yet the registration is not yet out there. It's something that I'm not able to give an answer to right now, though the effort has been there. The bill is there, it was tabled, and we are hoping through all these acts that is happening, the conversation is going to be picked, the organization are going, to revive that conversation and the bill, and we can fight that it's passed.
Right.
Yeah.
So, given that you've mentioned that bill has not been actualized, Parliament has not considered it or expedited it, but you have the international statutes that you have signed. In your interaction with the law and what we do on a day-to-day basis, do you think as a country we actually to the line in terms of ensuring that we actually implement this particular statute, especially on human rights violation? Because signing is one thing, but actually implementing it is a totally different thing.
Yeah. So according to the law, the Constitution has already said that if the country has signed a particular convention on law internationally, then the same should be reflected within our system, our jurisdiction. So I think the efforts of having a registration on that, on enforced disappearance, it's one of the ways that we are honoring our commitment through assenting to the convention. However, at this point, we're being guided by the Constitution, specifically, if I can mention the Articles 25, 49, 26, and all like that. We're being guided by the Criminal Procedure Code, we're being guided by the Penal Code and other acts that are within that confine. However, we still call for this specific registration on the enforced disappearance, because now it gives the prosecution or the judiciary a leeway to prosecute this particular crime.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, as we bring the discussion to a close, let's talk about the families of the victims who have either lost their loved ones, including the Mlolongo 4, the two that were found. The families were crying that there has not been cooperation from the security authorities in terms of, giving them answers as to what happened and how their kins were found in the situations they were found in. How are these people protected? Because yes, the law says that they should be protected in a certain, in a certain measure, but it becomes so hard when, security agencies are involved. What can you say as a human rights body, or as a person working in human rights organization, in terms of the families? Do they give up? Because some have actually given up, because yes, the law says this, but the actualization doesn't quite match.
All right. So in terms of access to justice, that is something that literally I cannot give an opinion on, specifically to the affected people, and that's the family. We have seen it firsthand in the news recently. It's so unfortunate that we have had to see fathers and mothers crying. We have to see, so that on the issues, do they give up? Do they continue with the fight? The best thing that we can do is the judiciary, or as, the judiciary is as a human rights organization, as an advocate, is to ensure that we help as much as we can. We do give pro bono services. We do ensure that the evidence is well gathered and it's watertight, and all that. And we make a follow-up of the cases to court, and we bring the people who are doing all these atrocities into justice.
All right. We do hope the same here too. Thank you so much, Advocate Home,
Thank you very much.
giving us your perspective on this particular topic. Because of time, we'll have to leave it at that.
All right.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
All right. That's Advocate Home giving us a perspective on enforced disappearances, state-sponsored killings, and abductions. The clarion call is for Parliament to ensure that they expedite the consideration of the bill concerning enforced disappearance in the country, and actually for state agencies to actually implement the law when it comes to taming government critics. My name is Irene Mwangi. Thank you so much for making time, and a special thanks to our guests who have joined us tonight, giving us, some warm company as we're having this particular discussion, students of Kenyatta University School of Law. Thank you so much. Have a splendid night.